Alright, so this video is about King of the Sting and just kind of the comedy debate show genre, which doesn't really exist until this show, from my understanding at least. There's Kill Tony, which is similar in a way but a different premise. So if you haven't seen this show, King of the Sting, it's it's a debate show with comedian Theo Von and Brendan Schwab, and they go back and forth just roasting each other, and then roasting just fan submission pictures and videos. And I'm not really, I guess to preface this video, I'm not really a fan of the King of the Sting of the show, and it's more the format of the show that I don't like. I'm a fan of Theo, and I don't mind Brendan. He's not bad either. So it's not because of them. And I wanted to make this video for a bit now, after the show first came out. But every time I wanted to, like when I would write some notes down, I kept thinking, well, this is just a dumbass show. It's not gonna last. It's just a cash grab, kind of just mostly just kind of like hating on it. And it was hard to really figure out and kind of like nail down why don't I like this show? I'll watch Fighter and the Kid. I'll watch this past weekend. This show, I just can't make it through. It's, so this video will kind of just break down, I guess, and it's things that I've seen other people echoing now, online. So it's less that now I'm like, oh, it's probably just me who just hates it, because it's obviously a very successful show. So let's kind of just break down the similarities of this to another type of show, right? So you have short 5-10 minute segments where the topic's constantly changing, is how most sports and political debate shows are structured. Both of them don't really go into a lot of depth on any topic in order to keep the material light and just keep people who might not understand or care what's being talked about interested enough that they'll stick around for the next segment. And they have to make the debate topic short. Like when you watch these on ESPN or you're on CNN or Fox or whatever, and you watch these, they have to keep the debate topic short because they know that your attention span, the TV watcher, your attention span's very short. So getting you to stick around until after a commercial break is tough if the segment's 30 minutes long and they know that you're not interested. You're probably not going to stick around and wait for the next one to show up. You're going to go to another show. So it's interesting that they adopted the same rapid fire kind of format for this podcast, right? Because it was made for TV, not for podcasts, I guess. And so it kind of speaks to our short attention spans in general, I think, as to why this show is so popular, because it's consumed in a completely different way, right? If you're watching this show, if you're watching King of the Sting, you're an engaged audience. You sought out King of the Sting, downloaded it, or went on YouTube, whatever, to watch it. So you're not just a channel surfer. You didn't just happen upon it, click on it, and then sit around to watch it. Almost for sure. You're a fan of Theo, you're a fan of Brendan, or another comedian that just showed up on YouTube, maybe. Which I guess that would be the kind of only case of channel surfing. So maybe that point doesn't stand in that case. But it kind of is like the antithesis to podcasts, in that podcasts it seems like podcasts grew out of the fact that short, shallow conversations are the only thing you get on TV, right? You don't get 2-hour-long conversations with a person, uncut, unscripted, on television, right? The best thing you're going to get is 60 minutes, and it's an interview that's, chopped up to make it palatable on TV, I guess, right? So it's something that Joe Rogan even, I guess, has actually kind of just talked about it ad nauseum on this subject of why people are drawn to podcasts, is because it's long form conversations rather than short rapid fire debate topics where everything is very just shallow. You put in your quick joke or your quick comment and then you move on to the next subject. and you kind of just talk over one another and scream, which is what is featured in this show. That's what King and the Sting is, right? So yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they even do it as a podcast. Like, why they even run it so that you can download it on iTunes or whatever, because the show is almost entirely based off of visuals. It's, Rate My Aunt, it's Rip My Drip, it's, I don't know, whatever the other fucking blank my blank, blank my blank, blank my blank. It's all about what's on the screen, what's catching your eye. And it's an obviously very visual generated show, because, you have this very elaborate intro. It's like very Monday Night Football flashing, and the animations and the music and everything. And then now you have like the sidebar, which is like just an obvious ripoff of like SportsCenter or like those types of shows where it's like, here's the breakdown, the rundown of the topics we're covering, and here's what's next, right? Because they do that to make sure you don't leave the channel and go to, I don't know, if you're on the next, whatever, Comedy Central or FX or something, just keep scrolling through. They want to make sure, okay, I can see, I care about this next topic that's coming up, so I'll stick around and wait for it. That's why that's like that. So it doesn't really, I feel like they're copying these other shows without really understanding why it's done the way it is, if that makes sense. But it's working right now. So they're basing their show on a proven model, right? Everybody knows SportsCenter works because SportsCenter's been on TV forever. Everybody knows these stupid like political analyst debate shows work because they've been on TV forever. That's why people watch CNN, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, I guess it's interesting that they've adopted that platform to a podcast now. And if you do listen to this show like on audio, it's kind of interesting. I'd actually, if you watch this video and you listen to the show, I'd really like to know why you choose that over like YouTube, because I don't know how it's even possible to listen to the show. I mean, I can play a clip here.
Yeah, she is that little hot tamale, the candy hot tamale,
bro.
A little redhead, bro.
This looks more like Rape My Drape, bro. It sounds like you cannot. If you walk around dressed like this with your legs open, that's not safe.
No, that's a cat call in the trailer park.
Yeah, this is more like smash my patch. I feel like this is not going to end well.
No, this is not going to end well. This is how you get kidnapped.
And you can see like it. How does that translate to just audio? I mean, you have to see what's going on. You can't. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, a lot of podcasts are like that now too. I mean, even Joe Rogan's podcast is at the point where it's, I mean, obviously the Jamie pull that up has become like a huge meme, right? So it's there. A lot of them are shifting towards this very visual dependent model. They're just kind of taking it another step further, I guess, with the rapid fire thing. So another interesting kind of aspect, though, just to kind of move along, is the show, so the show generates like the most amount of interest, I think, in wanting to get your submission featured on the show. I think there's a huge draw to that. And it's not something I realized right away. But if you, it gets people excited knowing that, hey, if I submit this video of me dressed up like a dumbass and I submit it for Rip My Drip, which is the feature, if you haven't seen it, it's a feature where you submit a picture of yourself and they just roast you based on how you look, basically. And then Theo, being Theo, always ends with oh, but they look nice, they're probably really well-meaned, they mean well, I'm sure they're really good people. Theo can't not be nice to can't not say something nice to somebody, no matter how ridiculous they look or anything, which is really genuine, I think, of him. But I've spoken about kind of Theo in another video. I don't want to get on that topic. But yeah, so the idea of getting featured by your favorite comedian that's a huge draw, right? Because if that happens, oh cool, and now I can like post this clip on my Instagram or on my Twitter, blah blah blah. Like it's a bump. Like people have always wanted this, like that little bit of like that 5 minutes of fame, right? Like, cool, I get to be roasted by my favorite comedian. I mean, who doesn't, like that sounds great. That sounds hilarious. Like if you're that person, that's an awesome opportunity that you can say like, yeah, they roast me. It was hilarious, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I've submitted some of my other videos I've submitted on Reddit just to try and get some people to watch it and just get some feedback and whatnot, and got roasted so hard. And that was the best part, was just like seeing people just shit all over me. It was hilarious. So I can definitely see now also, I guess, tying that together as to why that's such a big appeal, is to like get featured on the show. And then also there's like the other kind of like, like I guess previous, like I brought this up, is that I thought I was kind of thinking that the show would just fall off after like a few episodes, like maybe 10 episodes or so, which they're only at 9, I think, so far. It's hard to tell because they're all exactly the same. But so I figured it would get stale pretty quick, because basing your entire show on user submissions is a little tricky, right? Like you're really relying on all of us to have that want of being roasted by them, of giving a shit what their opinion is, basically, right? And I really underestimated like what that appeal was, I think. And then there's the other angle of kind of just submitting like fake stuff to like game the system, basically, like submitting like a fake picture of just like, here's some random Insta thought, so you can get it featured on the like Rate My Aunt or whatever the aunt one, Font My Aunt, yeah, I think that's the name of it. But then now with this, in the newest episode I watched, and there's a new angle which I hadn't considered, and it's very smart. And so basically you have this most recent case of this chick submits an obviously very sexual video where she's laying on her stomach, she's up close to the camera, wearing like a low cut tank top, so her titties are out and everything. She's got full face of makeup on, and she's talking about how her boyfriend's quiet during sex, he didn't say anything. What's the advice I can get from Theo and Brendan? It's like, I mean, come on. The video, it was obviously a fake submission. Like there is no quiet boyfriend. That's not real. Like, I hope you understand. Like, if you watch that and you didn't catch that it's fake, I mean, go watch it again, I guess. I don't know what to tell you, but it was pretty obvious that it's not real. But the reason, right, so let me make my point, I guess, is that, like, the reason why she did that is to get a bump in social media, right? So you'll notice, like, go back and watch it, and she writes, like, a personal note, right? So Chin is commenting on all this, right? So she writes a personal note to Theo and to Brendan, and it's about like how good looking both of them are, right? So it's just this shallow fake, like, oh my god, you're both so cute, and whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was basically along those lines. And then she submits her full name and her Instagram handle, and Chin is, for some reason, very eager to like tell everybody about this, right? But it's obvious that like this was like the submission to like, oh, okay, go check this hot chick out. Because, I mean, dude, this is so smart. Like, I'm not hating at all. This is so smart. Like, she knows it's all a bunch of, like, weird Midwest guys who watch this show. And so if she can get on there, flaunting off her titties, and be like, here's my Instagram handle, da-da-da, I've got this boyfriend who I don't really like. So, I mean, come on. Okay? But... And then you have Chin, who is like, if he's the guy who's filtering all of the content, I would think we're going to see a lot more of these. Because, I mean, come on. Chin should probably not be the guy in charge of filtering out, like, who is getting... Let's give that to Kat, right? Let's give it to Kat. I think she'll do a better job, I guess, to just put it, to just without saying it explicitly. Let's have Kat, the female intern, producer, whatever, do the filtering of who gets featured on the show instead. Yeah. So otherwise, I think we're going to see a lot more of these. And I mean, it's really smart. I didn't think about that. I guess because obviously, why would I? I'm not out here thotting it up on Instagram, obviously. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. I'd say go back and watch it if you didn't catch that. It's a really interesting angle in how to game the system, basically. Like, oh, they're featuring just anybody who submits a video. Well, I'm a hot chick. I can just submit a video, throw in my Insta handle, boom, bump, right there, you know? So, I don't know. So yeah, that was smart. So now I also kind of wonder, what does the show cost to run? It seems like a really expensive operation for being a podcast, doesn't it? Like, so obviously you have both the hosts, right? Now they just said on the latest episode, they hired a comedian to write for the show, which I guess they couldn't come up with any more like blank my blank topics or something. Or maybe Theo needs more made up stories because he burned through all of his good ones. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but he's been struggling to like make up this person from my past who used to be a cafeteria worker or whatever. Like, he's burned through all of them already, which, I mean, that's what got him to blow up, were a lot of his like crazy stories. But yeah, he's got to work on some more of those because they've been kind of weak lately, like the last few months. But so, okay, let's get back. So we're talking about how much it costs, right? Or just trying to figure it out. So you have you have this writer. Now you have 3 people who like produce the show at least. So you have like Chin and Kat from TFATK, and then you have the Nick guy from this past weekend. And it seems like there's also another group of people who do the actual like all the animation shit. Like, Chin's not. None of these people are doing at least coming from like web development programming, like doing animation shit with that's kind of difficult. But so I'm guessing they have an actual professional doing that kind of stuff because it's really well done. It's just, I think it looks really tacky and just hokey, doing the whole like Monday Night Football ripoff thing. But I mean, it is at least very professionally done. So there's that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like they've got a huge amount of staff for a podcast. I don't know. I mean, I get like they're killing it on the charts. I mean, look at how well they're doing, and it's pretty obvious. Like, I'm sure the ad revenue is coming in great, but I don't know. I mean, if the viewer count drops, then what happens? Like, if it drops back to like say like what TFAT Kate, like this show is doing way better than either of their podcasts individually, not combined, I don't think, but individually it's doing better than this past weekend or The Fighter and the Kid, based on just views. But their ratings, or like ranking in podcasts, they're like number 1, or at least they have been number 1 for a while now. And yeah, so I don't know, like, is the show are they getting enough ad revenue to cover all these people's salaries and everything? I don't know. It's just crazy. I guess, like, I'm sure it is, because when you look at Your Mom's House, they've got a fucking huge staff too, and they got that new studio. And so, I mean, I don't know, they have to be making money from that, obviously. And they get roughly the same amount of viewer count. So, yeah, I don't know. It's crazy how much money there is, I guess, in making these kind of videos, that you can have that big of a staff. And also how hard it is for anybody else to, like, compete with that, right? Like, how do you compete with people who can, like, afford an actual staff to produce content? Like, podcasts used to just be like, go get Joe Rogan's old ass fucking that was like advanced kind of back then too. Like, Red Band was like on his shit back then on the technology stuff, and even that was like super low budget. And now you look at, like, everyone has actual studios. Like, that's kind of crazy. But I think I'm going way off topic on talking about how much it costs to run a podcast and be a competitive podcast these days. But all right, so because of how popular this show is, I wasn't really sure like, I think I talked about this in the beginning, like, why it seemed like I was, like, the only one who's, like, not liking this show. Like, I'm just being, as Brendan would say, like, a Cheeto eating finger, whatever, hater. I don't know, whatever the fuck, homeless cat, whatever kind of dumb bullshit he says about haters or whatever. That's kind of what I was like, am I just hating on the show or what? But it seems like more and more I see people bringing up in comment sections on, like, just online or whatever, not really on the YouTube, of just, like, not really liking the format, not really liking a lot of the segments and whatnot. So it's kind of nice. It's nice to see a little bit of that confirmation. Maybe it's just confirmation bias. And I'm just seeing, like, this small vocal, like usual, a small vocal minority of people who don't like it, which is probably what it is. I mean, look at how well the show is doing. I'm probably in the huge minority in not liking this show, but we're going to keep going on this. But yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, like, you can really see, like, because they post it's all visual based, you can see who their audience is, right? Like, that's always kind of been a mystery, unless you, like, go on Instagram and you look at, like, people commenting on podcast submissions, or, like, on Twitter, and then, like, you can click on their profile and, like, okay, who is this person? But when you actually see you still don't really know. But when you see people submitting videos, and it's like, oh, okay, this is like who your audience is. Like this show goes hard in the Midwest. Like that, this show goes hard in the Midwest. A lot of their audience, they're kind of, I don't know, like, fringe. Like, I don't know. I don't really want to, like, shit all over, like, the people who like the show. Because, like, I don't know, everyone likes different shit, so whatever. I don't want to rag on people who like the show. Like, that's your prerogative. This is more about just kind of about the show. And so, but when you read YouTube comments, right, which I kind of mentioned before, they're really positive, which is weird, right? Like, when you go on Fire the Kid YouTube and look at the comments, and then go and watch King of the Sting and look at the comments. Maybe that's just the difference between Brendan and Theo's fan base. I'm not sure. I guess you could look at this past weekend's. Theo doesn't really do stuff to be he's provocative, but not provocative in the way that, like, Brendan is. So I guess I could see why his fans are more positive than Brendan's fans. There's just not that same level of being I can't even speak anymore, whatever. But yeah, so I don't know. I just thought it was interesting how positive all the YouTube comments. I mean, in Instagram too, when you look, it's very positive. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like, when you read through, like, the comments though on YouTube, like, they're really positive, but they're all people, like, repeating Theo's jokes, like, roasting Brendan when he says, like, you look like blank, blank, whatever, it's all about the jokes that Theo made about Brendan. So the comments are very, like, they're positive, but they're very one-sided towards Theo's jokes. And nobody seems to give a shit about any of the submissions. When you look through the comments, other than a few, like, oh, wow, I want to fuck that chick because she's hot, whatever, like, basically Brendan comments, it's mostly all just positive about Theo's jokes. Nobody mentions anything about the submissions. Nobody seems to give a shit about what any of the topics are. Like, nobody seems to care about, like, oh, this topic's better than this one. I like this segment better than this segment. Don't do this segment anymore. Nobody gives a shit. I think people just tune in because they're fans of Brendan, they're fans of Theo, and they just want to see them being funny. They don't really give a shit what they talk about. So really, I think it could just be a regular podcast, but it would be much more boring, right? Because it's set up to be just a rapid fire joke podcast rather than, I keep calling it a podcast, but it's almost like disingenuous to call it a podcast because you can't consume the show audibly. You have to, like, watch it. But yeah, so the show, yeah, I mean, nobody really gives a shit what the topics are. It's all about just being nonstop joke back and forth. So it's kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. It's a totally different format that we haven't seen, I don't think, from any other podcast. But I think this year we'll see more shows like this pop up because it's obviously very successful, right? Look at, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views within like a few days of the submission, like when the video comes out. So I think we'll definitely see more of these kind of podcasts with comedians pop up. And so, like, even if you don't like it, and even if I don't like it, they've clearly hit on something very successful, which I think is just roasting your fans and featuring them on the show. And just having like a rapid fire kind of like banter back and forth. Like, nobody cares what they're talking about. Nobody cares about like the actual interviews, which is why, like, look at Rogan podcasts where he has a comedian on, right? Most of the time they aren't funny. Theo being like one of the few exceptions of a comedian coming on Rogan's podcast and being funny, where he just like was relentless with jokes, but like the low key kind of jokes that Joe doesn't get. Whereas when comedians come on JRE, it's almost never funny. It's always just a serious conversation, and then you go online and people talk all the time about how much they hate when comedians come on JRE, and it's because it's not funny and it's not entertaining to most people. I think if JRE, if Rogan had comedians coming on and they were joking nonstop back and forth, people would love it then. So I think they definitely hit on something really big here, or not big, but really just something that's successful, something I think will take off. I think it'll stick around. As long as the ad revenue is good, because they have 15 people working there. But as long as the ad revenue sticks with it, I don't really see this show going away. I think we're just going to see more shows like this pop up. And I don't really think they'll be very popular as podcasts. I think they'll mostly just be consumed via YouTube. It's kind of like the H3H3 podcast as well. Which is basically impossible to listen to. And a lot of people, when that first came out, that's another one that's relatively new, I guess. Well, maybe not so much anymore, but a lot of people complain that, hey, this is a podcast, but I can't consume this in my car because everything you're just discussing is on a video screen. So, yeah, no, I guess that's all I got. Simple, mindless, easy to ingest comedy. It's a hit. Who knew?